Okay, in this installment we're going to put this all together. Last time we created the frames using Lightwave and using a virtual scene, and today those frames are completed. Okay, as you see, we have 6 folders, and each folder contains 1,000 frames from the point of view of the camera that it was used to make it. And so this is a lot of images, and this can take a long time to do because the computer can render this over days and sometimes over weeks depending on what you're trying to create. But this is not necessarily going to be easy. And as you can see, we've just got a lot of this. And the most important thing which you got to remember is that you got to keep track of this. For example, camera 3, the folder's named camera 3. Each frame starts with camera 3. If you mix these up, it won't work. Okay, the next step is to go into Adobe Premiere. And here, we're just going to make a new project. And this is going to be a little bit easier than it might be. The new projects we're going to call 360 video underscore export. And I'm going to put it in the same folder as those other folders. And there we go. And in Premiere, we're going to make a new sequence. And the reason why we're doing it this way is because it's important to get this right. This is an older version of Premiere. The newer version would possibly figure this out automatically. But we're going to make a custom timeline. And to do that, we go to Settings, and we go here, and we choose Customs. And there, remember that it's got to be 1920 by 1440, which is a relatively unusual dimension most of the time. And that will give it a 4:3 aspect ratio, which is what the GoPro cameras would normally do. And we're going to call that sequence Cam 1. So the sequence is called Cam 1, and we're going to import footage from the Camera 1 file. So I grab the first image, and I choose numbered stills, and it'll bring that in. And there's my Camera 1. Then, the new sequence should be the same. New sequence. This one will be Cam 2. As you can see, we go to Settings, we go to Custom, and that would be 14:4. And import from Cam 2. And there we have it. So essentially, we're going to make 6 of these. And here we are with 6 sequences, each sequence containing a different piece of the puzzle. And you can see up there they all are. So the next part is going to be relatively easy. What we're going to do is we're going to have the computer render these. So we're going to do File, Export, Media, and we're going to match sequence settings. And if you match sequence settings, it should make the final video exactly the same as what you started with. And so that's all we got to do. And then, to make it even easier, I'm just going to hit the Q button. And that will open up the media encoder. So notice this sequence is ready to go. So then, all we have to do is add the next one. So, File, Export, Media, Match Settings, and Q. And then you see, there it is. And ultimately, all you've got to do is put them all in there, and then hit this button here to start the queue, and it will render them all at once. And then go get yourself a cup of coffee. And here we have 6 completed videos, and each of them looks something like this. So if you play those, in this particular case, you can see the shadow of one of the objects crossing the light source. And this is not a very long video, it's only 16 seconds, but it makes the case. And now for what you've all been waiting for, how do we put these all together? Well, there's a program called Kolor Autopano, which sounds really weird. So in Workstation C, go to all the programs, and it's under K for Colo Autopano Video Pro. And basically, there it is. And this is a rather unusual program, and it is very well known. It's coming out of France, and it does a great job. And basically, it's designed very simply. It's a drag and drop interface. So, you take your videos, and you literally take all of them and just drop them on down there. And when you do, you get this. And a lot of this looks more complicated than it is, but in order for it to do what it does, it has to be pretty complicated. Now, one thing you don't have to worry about is synchronizing. The first thing you would normally do if you were doing this with a GoPro rig is synchronize the cameras so that they're all running at the same time. You don't have to do that in this case because we've already done that by the very nature of what we've done. We have every frame is corresponding exactly where it belongs. So we go straight to this one, Stitch. And this is where we're actually going to put them together. And Stitch allows us to basically assemble a globular or spherical video. If you look over here, we're going to stick with the GoPro model. I stick with the first one there on the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to go, instead of current position, we're going to go to current selection, which is the whole video. And we're going to ask it to sample 5 times. And so it's going to use that as information to put together a stitching pattern. And then I'm just going to hit Stitch. And if your computer is relatively fast, it will go ahead and move that on along. If not, this could take an hour or two, depending on what you're working with. This is a globular file. And in order to understand this, I'm going to make it full screen. This is the computer's best guess of the video, and I can already see it's made a few mistakes, which you may be able to correct. But the main thing to do is to get the horizon right. You can see little numbers where all of those cameras are. And if you click and drag, you can literally move the horizon. Now the first thing we want to do is to get the horizon pretty flat. So you would literally grab in different parts of the screen and try to make it make a logical sense. Try to make the sky look correct. And that's easier said than done, but it will get it pretty close. Now notice everything is still going to be distorted. The ground is going to be distorted, things that are close are going to be distorted, but that's probably the best we're going to be able to do. And then I hit Apply. And then what that will do is we'll apply that logic to every frame in the video. And then we basically render out a test video. So if we go to the render area, and we're going to come up with something that we can see. Now normally it's designed for very high resolution, but for some cell phones you're going to want to give them a break. So I tend to go down to 14:4 at 720, at least for a draft. And then you tell it where you want to put it. And I'm just going to put it in the same folder as the rest of them. And I'm just going to call this test underscore 360. And I hit render. And you can see it begin to render up here. And to test our video, we're going to go into the GoPro VR player, which you can get, I believe, a trial version or a consumer version on the internet, just about anywhere. And this will show you about what the thing is going to look like. So I'm going to select the file. Okay, and as you can see, here we are in the finished product, and you can see the shadows going overhead. And if I were to pull down on this, I can see the sky, I can see things going on over here, and I can see basically anywhere in the horizon. I can look up at the tower, and that's really what we're talking about here. And as you can see, there are some errors. We got duplication of that's called parallax, and we've got the same problem going on over here. And there are ways of fixing that, which we'll talk about perhaps later. But in the meantime, this is an example of virtual reality construction using 3D graphics.